What's going on, fight fans? It's your boy Johnny, and welcome back to the Hangout Spot. And let's talk some boxing, because this past week, your boy Gervonta Tank Davis finally announced his next opponent, the date and the venue. Well, not necessarily the venue, the city it's going to be in. And it's going to be in Houston, Texas on December 14th, a couple weeks before Christmas. And the opponent is going to be WBA 130-pound champion Lamont Roach. And at the end of the day, whether you like it or not, this is the fight that we're going to get, because these are the type of fights that Gervonta Tank Davis usually gives us fans. The fights that we don't want to see. Let me make this clear. This has nothing to do with Lamont Roach. I think Lamont Roach is a very, very good fighter. He's a nice fighter. He's coming off a spectacular knockout performance on Pro Box against McCrory to win the WBA super featherweight title. But at the end of the day, he's the smaller guy. He's going to have to move up in weight to fight arguably the best lightweight in the world. A guy who could have fought anybody else. A guy at this point in his career should be fighting the best fighters. And I'm a Tank Davis fan, but at the end of the day, he's one of the faces of boxing. People want to see him fight the Shakur Stevensons of the world, the Teofimo Lopez's of the world, the Devin Haney's of the world. And he continues to pick guys that are either smaller than him or realistically don't pose a true threat to beat him. I'm sorry, that's how I feel. And that's how I feel about this fight. I mean, fight fans are going to convince themselves, or try to convince themselves, that this is going to be a competitive fight. And again, no knock on Roach. He's a nice fighter, but there's levels in this game for a reason. And I just don't think that he's on Tank Davis's level. Just like I thought going into the Frank Martin fight that he wasn't on Tank Davis's level. And we all saw what happened in that fight. Even though Frank Martin put up a valiant effort in the beginning portion of that fight, Tank ultimately broke him down and he put him to sleep. And I don't expect anything different from this fight. In fact, I think this fight is going to be a carbon copy of the Frank Martin fight. And that's why I don't like it. I'm tired of seeing it. I've seen this movie before, and we all know that the sequels are usually worse than the originals, man. So at the end of the day, this is what we're stuck with. One thing that did shock me about this fight, though, is I figured it probably would have made the most sense to happen in Maryland, since both guys are from Maryland, which is probably why Tank Davis wanted to pick Lamont Roach to fight in the first place. But it's happening in Houston, which is kind of weird. Either way, PBC, Amazon Prime, I'm sure it's going to be on pay-per-view, and they're going to try to charge us $89.99 for it. And personally, I don't think this fight is worth $90. I mean, the Fire Stick Boys are going to be out in full effect. You already know it. I know it. But at the end of the day, it all depends on what type of undercard they put together. And if rumors are true and David Benavidez is going to be put on this undercard, then it's a good start. Although you're not going to see David Benavidez fight who you want to see him fight either. More than likely, the rumor is it's going to be Jesse Hart. A fight that I don't really care for either. The fight that we all want to see him is versus Canelo Alvarez. And we all know that Canelo Alvarez doesn't want any of that smoke. So I don't blame David Benavidez for that. But, you know, there had to be some better options out there than Jesse Hart. Either way, that fight's not officially announced, so I'm not going to get into that. Let's get back to this whole Tank and Lamont Roach fight. And the good thing for Lamont Roach is that this is a win-win situation for him, right? I mean, nobody's realistically going to expect him to win this fight. He is moving up a weight class. He's fighting the stronger, bigger guy. Not necessarily size-wise, but definitely from a power perspective. And the WBA has given him permission to go up. You know, they're not going to strip him of the title because he's going up to fight at 135. He can go up there, get knocked out by Tank, and he can still come down his next fight and defend his title. He will be the title holder after this fight. So good thing for Lamont Roach is he doesn't lose anything from that perspective. He's going to make bank, right? He's probably going to make the biggest payday of his career, because we all know that Tank, he's a major draw. Him and Canelo Alvarez are arguably 1 and 2 the faces of boxing. So it's going to sell, you know, because any Tank fight sells. I mean, Tank is extremely popular, especially in the urban markets, in the hood. You know, people come out. When Tank fights, it's more of a show, right? People do fight parties. They get all twisted. I mean, it is what it is. So at the end of the day, I mean, you can't fault Lamont Roach for taking this shot and trying to be great. But again, I fault Tank Davis, man. You got to do better than that, my man. Like, Tank Davis is I mean, his skills can't be questioned. I'm a Tank Davis fan. And I have always defended him because there's been a lot of people that have questioned his resume throughout the years. I don't. I think his resume is formidable. But at the end of the day, Tank Davis passes the eye test, man. I mean, not only is he a power puncher, he's 30-0 with 28 knockouts. So if you're not a true boxing fan and you look at that, you're going to think that Tank Davis is just a power puncher, just like a Mike Tyson was. But at the end of the day, man, Tank Davis can box, man. His ring IQ is off the charts. And he's a thinker in the ring. He's going to set up traps and he's going to strike like a cobra, man. So I don't question his boxing ability. I don't care who he fights. I think Tank is the goods. But for the people that do question his resume, my man, you do it to yourself, man, by doing and moving the way that you're moving. You know what I mean? Like, we all know that you should be fighting Shakur Stevenson. But we also know, hardcore fans know that fight is nowhere near happening. Why? Why that fight is nowhere near happening, I don't understand. These two guys are the two best lightweights in the world in their prime. Shakur Stevenson was a free agent. Now he's with Matchroom. But, I mean, this fight could have easily happened even before he signed with Eddie Hearn or even after. I'm sure Eddie Hearn would have been more than happy to play with Al Heyman in the same sandbox to make that happen. It would have been a mega fight. But instead, Shakur Stevenson was slated to fight Cordina. That fight in October obviously isn't going to happen because he hurt his hand. So more than likely, he's going to wait it out and fight against William Zepeda at some point in the first half of next year. And that's where you got to hope that maybe after that fight, in the mid part of 2025, we see him in Tank. But I don't know, man. Like I said, Tank moves in a weird type of way, man. And, that's the most frustrating thing about this because if it wasn't Shakur, I mean, he could have took a fight with Devin Haney. I don't know if Haney would have taken that fight coming off the loss against Ryan Garcia. But, I mean, at the end of the day, Teofimo Lopez is out there. That's a big fight. Those two have been talking a lot of trash to each other throughout the years. So you kind of feel like they're supposedly on a collision course. Teofimo Lopez does not have an opponent. But, I mean, there's not even a mention of trying to even negotiate with Teofimo Lopez. I mean, why not? Tank, you're 135. Teofimo's 140. You have fought at 140 before. You've moved up to fight Barrios. Why can't you move up to 140 and fight Teo? So again, there's a lot of things that come into play here, man, and it just opens up people to criticize the way he sticks and moves, and it's hard to defend. It really is, because at the end of the day, this is not a stay busy fight for Tank. And I know there's some fans out there that are saying, you know what? I don't like the fight, but you know what? Tank has to stay busy. This is a stay busy fight for him. He's got to get back in the ring. Bro, Tank doesn't care about that, man. He's 30 years old. Tank is the type of fighter where he'd be perfectly fine with fighting once a year. And you already know how these big name fighters do. We're lucky if we see them twice a year. Usually it's one and done. So, I mean, Tank, if he had to sit out the rest of the year because he couldn't find the right opponent or he was realistically, let's say hypothetically waiting, for Shakur to heal and get that fight or possibly negotiate with something with Teofimo in the early part of next year by Super Bowl time, he wouldn't have had no problem sitting out, man. Tank doesn't need a stay busy fight. Tank needs a big fight. That's what he needs. Tank needs a fight where people are going to say, yo, we told you, regardless of the resume, that Tank was the real deal, that Tank was potentially the face of boxing. We were telling you that. He just didn't have the right opponent for us to be able to say, now that's the guy that Tank needed to beat for people to be believers. We're still waiting for that. Tank has also not unified, the division, a division that I think that he should be able to unify fairly easy. I mean, but I don't think that he's concerned with unifying. We did know that he was supposed to fight Vasily Lomachenko. That was supposed to be a December fight, which was also a fight that should have happened 5 years ago instead of now. But Vasily Lomachenko is obviously going to sit out the rest of the year. So I don't know if Lomachenko was really, really serious about fighting Tank at this point in his career anyway. So it really doesn't surprise me that he pulled out of there. But, I mean, there's just so many other options, right? Cepeda's the #1 contender for every single belt, at 135. He could have looked at that. I mean, you got young guys, obviously up-and-coming young guys that have been calling out Tank. Keyshawn Davis, not sure if he's ready for that smoke, but he's been calling out Tank, saying that he can beat him. Floyd Schofield, so there's names, man. There's names out there that could have drawn more of I like that, other than a guy that's fighting at a lower weight class. I mean, that's just my opinion. At the end of the day, I'm just hoping for a good fight. But more importantly, I'm hoping for a good undercard because, like I said, if they're going to try to charge $90, man, at least put together a stack undercard. PBC, y'all got to come through at least in that perspective, man, because, like I said, Tank against Lamont Roach, it really doesn't do anything for me. I mean, I will watch. Like I said, I'm a Tank fan. I'm a fight fan first and foremost, but I would have been a lot more happier, obviously, if it would have been against a Teofimo Lopez or another big name in the division. But anyhow, let me know your thoughts in the comment section. What do you think about this fight? Do you think Lamont Roach, coming up from 130, has a realistic shot to pull this off, man? Be interesting to hear what you think in the comment section. And as always, I don't know what you're waiting for. Make sure you hit that subscribe button and you smash that like button. And make sure you're along for the ride. This is how we do it up here at the Hangout Spot. But as always, for all my boxing followers and my people out there, I appreciate the love. I appreciate the support. This is your boy Johnny signing out from the Hangout Spot, and I'll talk to everybody soon.